Hi everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. Today's page in our taco manual takes us to a pretty exotic place. We're going to be making tacos de Huitlacoche. Now I am roasting some poblanos here over an open fire because we're going to need these roasted poblanos for the recipe. But if you don't know what Huitlacoche is, some people call it the Mexican truffle or the corn truffle. That might be taking it a little bit far, but it is a type of mushroom and it is highly prized in Mexico, especially in central Mexico. I know a lot of you have been to Mexico and you've had these tacos of Huitlacoche before. Okay, let me explain to you what Huitlacoche is. It's actually a mushroom that grows in the kernels of corn. So I have to kind of go back to the basic botany of corn. And you have to understand that when the corn tassels out on the top and the pollen falls down, it goes to the silks that are formed first, and it pollinates all the silks. Well, at the same time that tassel is pollinating the silks to form all those kernels of corn, there is this mushroom fungus that is floating in the air, and it affects some of those, and it goes right into those kernels of corn, and it starts to grow. And what comes out is this sort of odd-looking stuff here. It's blackish gray. Maybe you can see it a little bit better in this jar of this Huitlacoche that is here. But its form, you can see they look like little kernels of corn, but instead of being white or yellow, they're almost black. Okay, so when I said it's revered, it has been revered since the Aztec times, and they continue to use that name Huitlacoche, which comes from the Aztec language. Now, when you taste this stuff, okay, and you have to trust me in this because I can't offer you a taste in video form, but when you taste it, there's a slight sweetness to it, a sweetness that will remind you a little bit of like sweet corn. And then it will go into this earthiness and this complexity that just makes it absolutely one of the most amazing flavors on the face of the earth. Okay, so I've got my roasted poblanos here. I'm gonna let these cool for just a little bit, and then I'm going to peel off that blackened skin, and I am going to rinse them just briefly, take the seed pod out, and then chop them up. Now, while the poblanos were cooling off, I chopped up a medium-sized onion there, and I have a pan over here that is it's got a little film of oil. You could use vegetable oil for this. You could use olive oil. It's really delicious because this is an all-vegetable taco filling for you. But I'm chopping up the roasted and peeled poblano and seeded poblano into small pieces here. And then I'm just going to scoop up this onion now and put it into this. Yeah, I wanted to heat that oil up so that we would start the cooking right away and we can get a nice brown on this. Last little bit of chopping up this poblano. And then while that's cooking, and we want that to cook until it gets to a nice rich brown color. While that's cooking, I'm going to chop up this tomato and 4 cloves of garlic. We've got some epazote to flavor it over here, and this is going to be that classic taco filling that you can find from street vendors to really fancy restaurants in Mexico City. Okay, we've got brown onions. I'm going to put the garlic in there and just stir that around until it fills the kitchen with its beautiful aroma. Okay, now let's talk Huitlacoche. I'm using the stuff that's in the jar, 2 cups of that here. But let's talk about where you get this stuff, okay? Because my guess is a lot of you are watching this and going, oh, I wouldn't know how to even proceed with this. So 2 places you can find Huitlacoche in the United States. One of them is your Mexican grocery store. And you will either find this beautiful jarred stuff, which is in actually really, really nice shape, or you will find little cans of it. I haven't had as much luck with the cans because oftentimes the lobes have been mushed up, and well, maybe it's okay for like a filling for an enchilada or something like that, but not necessarily when you want the Huitlacoche to shine. Okay, so I prefer the jarred stuff. The other place that you can find Huitlacoche is in a lot of your farmers markets, especially if there are some Latino farmers there. You can ask them when you go to your farmers market, do you ever get Huitlacoche? And if they say, oh yeah, but we don't bring it to this market, say, bring it for me. And you will get a whole cob of corn that has been, shall we say, infected with this Huitlacoche, and it will be growing in there. And you just take that stuff off and you can have fresh. This that I have in front of me here was fresh this last summer because we have a farmer that does lots and lots of Huitlacoche for us. And then we just lay it out after we take the lobes off of the cob. We just lay it out on a sheet pan and put it in the freezer and freeze it, and then we bag it up after that. So with this stuff that comes in, it's kind of in a light brine there. You need to dry it out a little bit, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. So just letting it dry out for a couple of minutes here, and then we'll add all the rest of the ingredients that finish this up. Now, while I'm letting this dry out here, let's talk about the Epazote. I got a big, beautiful bunch of Epazote here. This particular recipe, the Huitlacoche taco filling, usually has a significant amount of Epazote in it. So you have to find the Epazote again at a Mexican grocery store, but you'll be going there to find your Huitlacoche anyway. So buy the Epazote there, and then I'm just going to make what we would call a chiffonade out of that. Very, very thinly sliced Epazote. Now, I'm going to go all the way down to the stem, but don't use the stem on this. It's much too, I say it's much too firm. So I like to keep the stem separate. And you'll need 2 or 3 tablespoons of the Epazote. Let's go back here and look at this. And yeah, now it's looking quite dried out. Of course, when I put this in, you heard the little bit of moisture that had collected at the bottom of the measuring cup, but that's all now evaporated. So let's go there. I'm going to throw in this Epazote, and then we'll scoop up the roasted, peeled, and chopped poblano and all of that tomato. And we're just going to let this cook together until all of the moisture from the tomato has released and evaporated. And we have this sort of, I'm going to call it dryish looking filling. Smell is really, really lovely in this. You can see the texture, it kind of holds together, mostly because that tomato now has cooked down and it forms the binding for this. Okay, so this is going to need some salt, but I did tell you that Huitlacoche, it was in a brine, so it already has some of salt in it. And so I'm going to just start here with a teaspoon of this diamond crystal salt and stir that, and then we'll give that a taste. That would be my absolute minimum seasoning for this, I know. It can take a little bit more than that. So I'm going to sprinkle that over the top. It's such a unique flavor. And I will tell you, it will be unusual to you the very first time that you taste it. And then after that, you might be having dreams about going back to it. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of tortillas, steamy hot tortillas out here on this plate. Classic Mexican style to just spoon our Huitlacoche over the top like this. And then I'm going to spoon on some salsa verde. Actually, this could take many different kinds of salsas, so whatever appeals to you, you can put on it. But man, I love this roasted tomatillo salsa. Some queso fresco all crumbled up, or you could use a queso añejo if you wanted to do that. But now you are ready for an exotic mouthful.